We do have a quorum. It is the Thursday, July 10th. HWMA, boy, July. So call to order at 5:32. I will go ahead and take roll. I don't have the agenda that has everybody's name on it. All right, we have Director Katie. Here. Director Wilson. Here. Director Madrone.
Present.
Okay, we have Director Luis Lusso and Director Castellano are absent. I am here, but we do have a quorum. So we'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. Does anybody want me to read what's on the consent calendar?
Nope.
All right. Any public comment on the consent calendar? Does anybody on the board want to pull anything off the consent calendar? And I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Katie and a second by Director Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that will take us to oral and written communication. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to make public comment tonight? Anybody on Zoom?
Seeing none, Chair.
All right, then I will close oral and written communication. And I will move on to number 4, which is to elect authority officers for fiscal year 25-26. I have been the chair for 2 years. I've really enjoyed it. Happy to step down, but also happy to do it one more year.
I would motion that we elect you as chair once again.
So that leaves us with a vice chair. Do we want to voluntold Director Luis Lusso to remain vice chair, or would one of you gentlemen be interested in that position? Director Luis Lusso from Blue Lake?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So we have, does somebody need to make a motion for that?
Motion to approve yourself, Matthews, as chair and Luis Lusso as vice chair.
All right. Okay, we have a motion from Director Madrone and a second from Director Katie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Boy, I was
Open.
all right, one more. It's all right. I like it here. All right. So we'll move on to item 6, approve resolution 2026-02 for the collection of integrated waste management fees, table 9.
Correction, Chair. Item 5 would be review and approve Board of Directors calendar
Oh, I'm
fiscal
so
year.
sorry. I skipped right over that. So let's review and approve Board of Directors calendar for fiscal year 25-26. Sorry, all the power is going to my head now.
So pretty simply, as is with electing new officials, we have to approve the fiscal year 25-26 board calendar meeting. And as in previous years, we are suggesting to not hold meetings in August and in December. We will have a meeting second Thursday of every month, and we recommend the meeting time stay at 5:30 p.m. Obviously, if the board wills, they can make different recommendations, but that's what we've had for a very long time.
Yeah, that seems to be working out well for all of us. I appreciate no meetings in August and December. Do you have any?
One year we had to, as a result, have special meeting in August. But
That was quite a year.
overall, it's always worked out.
Any public comment?
Seeing none, Chair.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
I would move that we approve the calendar as described by Executive Director Keller Heckman.
All right, we have a motion by Director Madrone, a second by Director Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now we can move on to approve Resolution 26-2 for the collection of integrated waste management fees, Table 9, recyclable material processing fee. And can I get a staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this is a bit of an issue that we've not run into the past before. But when we did our calculations in comparison to our scale software, HWMA staff, mainly me, rounded down 25 cents, and our scale software correctly rounded up. So this is simply a change to the minimum fee for recycling. The previous fee that was adopted a couple months ago is $9. The new fee would be $9.25. And so just to give you an idea or a sense of how many individuals this would impact, we see on average about one a day that hits the magical 120 pound number that would trigger the difference between this $9 minimum fee and $9.25. So we're simply asking the board to approve this resolution to ensure our minimum fee that we have passed now and that we will advertise and label all of our signs and everything matches the minimum fee that we are charging at the transfer station.
Does the board have any questions? No, nobody has any questions? All right. Then public comment? Seems pretty fairly cut and dry. So it's just one person a day will have to pay an extra 25 cents for.
We haven't had anybody actually impacted currently, but what will end up happening is if you brought in 100 pounds, you wouldn't see this issue. And if you brought in more than 120 pounds, you wouldn't see this issue because of how the minimums work and our scale software. The issue is that when we break down our per ton fee to our minimum fee, I made a mistake and rounded the wrong way. And our scale software is requiring us to round the correct way. So that's really the only change. But you're going to see on impact, you're going to see around one person a day over the past couple of years. That's what we've seen bring in the minimum of exactly 120 pounds. So yeah.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion or any?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-02 for collection of integrated waste management, fee table 9, recyclable material processing fee.
Second the motion.
All right. We have a motion from Director Katie, second from Director Madrone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so let's move on to number 7, which is to review and approve revisions to HWMA Policy Handbook Policy Series 2000 Personnel and approve Resolution 26-03, a resolution of the HWMA Board of Directors updating the HWMA Policy Handbook Series 2000 Personnel. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So tonight, staff will present some proposed changes to Series 2000 of the HMA Policy Handbook, as noted by Chair, which covers the majority of our personnel policies that the authority and its staff operate under. So the purpose of these changes is really universal across the board. The intent is to bring our current policy handbook up to date with not only our current practices, but along the lines and incongruence with state and federal law. For reference, the last comprehensive handbook update took place in 2019, and while current practices have adapted over time to new legislation as it's been brought online, these proposed changes will memorialize some of these current practices while providing more clarified and nuanced language around those activities. Staff has presented these proposed changes in track changes in the document for the board's convenience when comparing to prior language, which is what we have now. So this is the general overview of the process staff undertook for these proposed policy revisions. Staff, in concert with General Counsel and an independent HR consultant, reviewed current policy language against new laws and regulations, and then developed draft language for Policy Series 2000. Comments and recommendations from General Counsel and the independent consultant were reviewed and incorporated as presented here tonight. The approval process in this instance is fairly straightforward, as a majority of the proposed changes, again, are required by law. The board will receive the staff report outline along with the proposed edits in the agenda packet and this presentation here this evening covering those changes. Provide direction, should they have it, and approve the resolution adopting those changes. Should the board have significant questions or directions regarding singular policies, our recommendation would be to direct staff to bring more information for that specific policy back before the board before passing that individual policy number.
Does anybody have any questions?
You've still gone through it.
I mean, I guess the only nominal question I have is why the probationary period went from 6 months to 12 months. Was that something that was in line with what the HR suggested, or?
Sure. I can touch on that real quick if you like. So the reason that we're proposing a change from 6-month probationary period to a 12-month probation, and we're also recommending removing the current limit use of vacation and holiday for probationary employees. So right now, generally when you're inside probationary period for the authority, as a new employee, you are not allowed to take vacations or holiday. Management and supervisor staff has taken a look at our past probationary practices, staff that we've had under probation, and majority of them, especially in operations, 6 months doesn't seem to be quite enough time to determine if they fit the role and the needs of the authority. And it doesn't give us enough time to really assess their potential growth in that aspect. So that's why that's really one of the only changes here tonight that's presented that's not driven by laws or regulations.
Yeah, that sounds fair, and I think that's great to give people more of a chance to get comfortable in the role. Does anybody else have any questions?
So I'll touch on the majority of the proposed changes that we have, with a bit of background going over some of the reasons why we have these presented tonight. So policy 2002 and 2003, they cover the authority's equal opportunity employment language. These two sections have been moved from the beginning of policy series 2000 and placed in a more appropriate location for this language that occurs later on in the policy sections. Policy 2104 covers our current overtime policy. So this policy language now mirrors state law language. While the authority in practice has followed these requirements and regulations for some time, this now memorializes those changes and uses language more appropriate for this type of policy in our personnel handbook. It also better defines the current authority work week and defines when overtime is triggered by state law. This includes time worked in excess of 40 hours per week, over 8 hours in a given workday, and triggers when double time in excess of 12 hours in a given workday or consecutive workday 7 days in a work week trigger. Policy 2115 pertains to regular part-time employees. So while the authority does not currently have part-time employees on staff, we have used those roles in the past. This policy change, again, is per state law, and it grants sick leave accrual at the same rate of full-time employees. So it can no longer be truncated based off their part-time status. Policy 2200 has had the most significant changes of any of the policies presented here tonight, but focuses almost entirely on new leaves added through legislation and additional accommodations. This includes expansion of bereavement leave, now incorporates CFR required leave, leave related to military service, expansion of leave for judicial and jury proceedings, among a myriad of other leaves that have been granted to employees by the state. So policy 2410, like stated earlier, is one of the only policies that we're presenting not driven by state law, and we touched on that regarding the 6 months to 12-month probationary period. The board should also keep in mind that this only affects new hire employees. It does not affect current employees that are either getting a lateral transfer or a promotional offer inside the authority. Their probation will still remain at 6 months. Policy 2463 is centered around defining current meal and rest breaks offered. The proposed language now defines the type of meal and rest breaks, their length, and legal requirements regarding to the timing within the day of these breaks. This policy addition is a prime example of memorializing current practices that the authority already has in place. And then, as mentioned earlier, equal employment opportunity language was relocated and was placed here in section 2700, which also includes and houses our harassment and discrimination policies, among some other accommodations and protections. And this law now, again, mirrors state law language as well. So these these represent the lion's share of the proposed changes in the document. There are smaller cleanup items and some clarification language just to make some of the policies read a little bit easier. But those are really ancillary to these changes as presented.
So the overtime policy you have been following so there's not going to be anybody that's going to get anything retroactive. You've been following.
No, that
it,
is
just-
that is
just
correct.
not-
Yeah, we've been following. Our policies have morphed and changed as state law has morphed and changed. This is just memorializing those current practices. So no, it's not changing anything that the authority currently does or our internal policies. This is specifically memorializing and making it easier for new hires or staff that want to take a look at our personnel policy. Directly outlines overtime laws without having to go into legislation or laws in itself.
When was the last time this handbook was updated?
2019.
Okay, so great. Is it a policy to do it every certain amount of years, or were there just like enough changes this year to trigger some?
I don't believe we have a policy to do it every year. I think as certain things come up, we kind of do them over and over again. Obviously, I've spoken to this board in the past year about revamping the personnel policy. So we're kind of taking a large swath. This is going to be the first of 3 to 4 meetings where we have significant changes to the personnel policy. And then going forward, some of these changes are spurred by changes in law. Quite frankly, some of them are spurred by changes in practice at the authority. So we don't have a set in stone time period where they need to be revamped. But it's something that we could take a look at is to make sure we review these. General counsel reviews them all the time when they come up annually. We are constantly dealing with the personnel policy, so they can be changed at any time. So we don't really have a set rotation of changes, but we can certainly make a set rotation to ensure everything is up to date as it should be.
Well, there's not a dedicated HR person, right?
That is correct.
So it's you and general counsel that goes through this?
Yeah, me, general counsel, our director of finance, and for a majority of this, I believe she's on here tonight as well. We used a consultant from Blue Dream HR as well.
Okay.
So she'd be happy to answer questions about it as well, but yeah.
Oh, no, I'm just making sure that
Yep.
the onus is not like all on you and.
No,
we're doing this
I
with-
certainly do not have the pedigree to be able to do all of these personnel actions. No, certainly not. Nor would you want me to.
Fair enough. Does anybody else have any questions?
No, it's great. Seems comprehensive.
I had one that wasn't very impressive about this.
Is there anybody on Zoom that wants to make any public comment?
Seeing none, Chair.
All right, then I will entertain a motion.
Oh,
I make a motion that we approve the update and edits to Policy Series 2000 of the HWMA Policy Handbook and approve Resolution 2026-03.
second?
All right, we have a motion from Director Katie, a second from Director Madrone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, let's move on to board member reports. Does the board have anybody on the board have anything that they'd like to report out on? Well, I'm just going to take this moment to toot Arcada's horn from all of the great zero waste work we did during both Oysterfest and the 4th of July. I have a report from Bright and Green Humboldt that took care of our waste. And for Oyster Festival, which had about 15,000 people show up, we had 3,780 pounds composted, including oyster shells, food scraps, and compostable paper, 600 pounds of CRV containers, 160 pounds of mixed recycling, and the total estimated diversion rate was 85%. So I think that is amazing. And for for 4th of July, we used reusable plates and forks, and so once again diverted a ton of things from the landfill. So I'm really happy to see that you can do large scale events and still be really conscientious of the environment. So
Well done.
thank you.
You're setting a standard for us now.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that.
Yeah.
You know, it costs a little more, but it's certainly worth it.
Costs more in the short term, saves a lot in the long term.
Amen. All right, no more board reports. I will move on to executive director report.
Nothing at this time, Chair. Thank you.
Oh, my.
All right, well, then I guess I will move us into closed session. Oh, sorry, closed session. It is the intention of the Board of Directors to meet in closed session for one item pursuant to Government Code 54956-.8, real property to consider potential price and terms of purchase of property APN 405-081-0039.